you shot enough. Bring you special. And I want to begin by thanking you, Anthony, for writing this very special and important book at such a significant time in the unfolding of human and planetary story. Thank you for inviting me to launch and or to introduce this book to the people who have gathered here. Thank you, each and every one of you, for coming and for adding your energy to this renaissance of a spiritual tradition so much greater than we could ever imagine. When I was making these notes, I was reading one of my favourite books on the ancient spiritual tradition of this country, and that's a book by a woman called Eleanor Mary, and it's called The Flaming Door. And she says, "We shall, I believe, never fully understand our evolution, nor see in the glimmering light about us the signposts that point the way into the future, unless we recognise the greatness of our spiritual heritage." Anthony's new book on Newgrange offers the readers many different paths back into the great ancient spiritual heritage of this country. In the preface of the book, Anthony says, there is a profound cosmology and spirituality underlying the design of Newgrange, or as I like to call it, Uav Nagrania. This book explores some of the more etherical and mystical aspects of its creators and what motivated them to build this and other monuments. While training as a scientist, I learned that function always dictates the structure, and therefore the structure of Newgrange was chosen not randomly, but in a clear, precise way, so that it would fulfill its functions. When Newgrange was being excavated in the 60s, the focus was on the structure and on the archaeology. If we see Newgrange as a dead tomb from a previous time, then that is where the exploration would cease. The archaeological work and scholarship is a crucial starting point and is well explored in Anthony's book. But for people like Anthony, Newgrange is a very alive, vibrant place, and he poses the question, can we learn something about why it was built, what its importance was, why it has survived not only as a physical structure, but as a dimension of the human psyche? What, if any, message might it have for us 21st century humans? Having established the archaeological foundations, he opens up the conversation to a wide space, which includes the cosmological dimensions of Newgrange and the spiritual relevance of this mystical place. If we are to find this knowledge, we must spend quiet time, and we must move into an inner space where it would be possible for the gods and goddesses who resided in Newgrange to come and meet us. Anthony says, but the dreams of Angus O are not easily imparted, and if we truly want Newgrange to yield us secrets, we must become like the innocent miracle child of Newgrange divine parents, the Dagda and Boan. We must leave much of our 21st century mind outside of this sacred place and inhabit those dimensions of our psyche that will allow us to enter Newgrange and find its mysteries. The mysteries of all the unanswered questions is a central aspect of Anthony's research and his passion, leading to the creation of this beautiful book. But it is about much more than that. This book explains the simple astronomy that would allow us 21st century human beings to have a greater sense of our own place within the universe and afford us a greater sense of being at home in the world. Anthony speaks about the growth of awareness of places like Newgrange over the past 30 years and the possible significance of this. And this reminds me of a verse of a Donovan song called The Hurdy-Gurdy Man, and this verse was written by George Harrison. When the truth gets buried deep beneath 1,000 years of sleep, time demands a turnaround, and once again the truth is found. And this is where we are right now. We're at a time when we desperately need to find the truth of our past so that we can use it to lead us into a more significant and safe future. Anthony suggests that there's an opportunity in these places to reconnect with the awareness of the cosmic patterns and the cycles by which people lived their lives 5,000 years ago. Here one can see and understand that life on Earth is intrinsically linked with the heavenly cycles. Here we might glimpse the cyclical nature of the cosmic movements, which suggests that there are no beginnings and no ends. Later he suggests that the idea of the divine nature is a being without beginning or end, and that this deeply resonates at Newgrange. This book explores the archaeology, the astronomy, the spirituality, and the mystery of Newgrange. It moves away from the safe options and becomes expansive in the questions it poses, many of which are not fully answered because we still have to live along into those answers. This book is also a very personal statement, reflecting Anthony's own spiritual journey, his struggles, his questions, his dark night of the soul, and again he does not seek to offer definite answers, but hints of possibility. For him, Newgrange allows him to feel a sense of connection to a cosmos and a natural spirituality, one that was commonplace in earlier times. For Anthony, myself, and many other people, Newgrange is an expression of the continuity of life here on this plane, and between this plane and the other dimensions of our universe. The mythology associated with Newgrange is also beautifully explored in this book, and he invites us to awaken to that mythical dimension within ourselves. Anthony suggests that the defeat of the Tuatha Danann at the hands of the Milesian is at the root of the wasteland that is Western culture. This view is also shared by the late John Moriarty. It is said that the Tuatha Danann, when defeated, went into the hills and the caves of Ireland. Yet I believe that they also represent an aspect of our psyche, one that many of us wish to embrace again. Anthony quotes that when he Googled Tuatha Danann, it registered 1 million hits. Perhaps they never really left us at all and are waiting to be called back into our lives because, as Anthony says, they are such an important part of our story. This significant book reflects for me a person who has access to large regions of the intelligence of the universe within themselves. A person who has expanded beyond the confines of the rigid left brain and is in contact with the heart knowledge. Someone who has allowed themselves to become a conduit for the energies of Newgrange to flow out into the wider world in 2012. This book is big, it's courageous, it's magical, challenging, and transformative. This book celebrates our ancestors, not as dead people, but as an integral part of ourselves that is longing to be reunited in our hearts. This book offers us practical insights that can support us as we again find a common cause, like the people who built Newgrange, a cause that is big enough to transcend the agenda of our ego selves and realize that we can and we must find a vision that unites all that has been separated over the millennium. In summary, Anthony, this book is the work of a spiritual warrior, a person who might have been described in the following triad from our own Celtic tradition. A person who has the eyes to see what is, the heart to feel what is, and the courage that dares to fall. Thank you.